Good morning, everybody. Welcome today to Digital Forum number 10. Can't believe we've done 10 digital forums now, which we started at the beginning of lockdown back in March. So yeah, we're back out there as well. For some of you might have seen us in the Midlands last week. We're certainly getting out there and seeing you face to face. And next week we're in Letchworth as well, down in the southeast, and getting over to Northern Ireland. So we are getting out and about. But yeah, we still like these digital forums, and I think it's all valuable to everyone to keep these going so that you can get that great access. I can see we've got 174 delegates with us at the moment. That number's still going up, so hopefully we'll get a lot more of you with us today. And you know, a thank you to everybody. I know whether you're watching this at home, maybe in your van or in your office, it's a real commitment to come on here with us and listen to speakers, get some good CPD going, get some interaction going with our suppliers and manufacturers, and different topics going here. So I know your commitment to that is much appreciated, and a credit to you, really. So welcome, everybody. My name's Natalie Bungay, and I'll be your host today. So I'll be helping out with the speakers and doing a bit of Q&A after those presentations. So just a little bit, I'll go through the agenda just briefly, just a bit of just so you know what to expect today. I'd like to say a special thank you to Bayer, who are our sponsors. We've got Richard Mosley talking a bit later on about Harmonix, one of our products. They're later on this afternoon. And the rest of the agenda, so we've got some drainage investigation techniques by Davy coming up just after I've done a bit of an introduction and some housekeeping in a moment. We've also got Sarah Layton from Bedbug Central talking about the approach to managing bed bugs. We'll have a bit of a comfort break at 10:55 to 11:05, just to grab a coffee, have a bit of a stretch. And then after the break, we'll have Richard Mosley from Bayer talking to us about Harmonix, which is a rodent paste. And then finally, we'll have Clive Bowes. He's going to be talking to us of new and emerging UK pest species. So Clive will be joining us to talk about that at about 11:40. And then our own CEO, Ian Andrew, will be talking to you just about some association and industry updates, some good FYIs at the end there. A bit of housekeeping then. So, well, actually, firstly, CPD. So you want to know about CPD. Hopefully you get 3 points today. So regardless of which scheme you're on, basis prompt or BPCA registered, when you registered for this forum, it would have been a requirement for you to enter that CPD information. Now, if you are watching any of these videos later on, or you tend to share the presentations with some of your colleagues, because we'll be uploading them afterwards as individual presentations, you can still gain your points. You just need to approach the relevant scheme that you're on and inquire about how you get those points uploaded, okay? But it will certainly be possible for you. Depends on what device you're on. So you might be on a mobile phone, you might be on a laptop, but somewhere on your screen there, if you kind of hover your arrow over the screen, you'll see there's a Q&A section down the bottom, as well as a chat section. Now, a few of you have put some bits in the chat section already, saying hello and having some little conversations. That's great. That's what it's for. Also, use that chat section if you have any technical difficulties. If, say, our sound is bad or it's going, or maybe some visual issues, just pop something in the chat section. We'll try and help you and advise you what you can possibly do, and also it just keeps us abreast of what's happening. Also, we'll maybe share some links there if any of the presenters talk about anything, sharing links or sharing any information, then we can normally put those links in that chat section for you. So keep an eye on that if you're looking for any additional information to the presentations that we say we're going to share with you. And the other important bit is the Q&A button. So at the end of every presentation today, we'll have a good 5-10 minutes maybe for questions that you have for the presenter. So that's what you need the Q&A bit for. Please don't put your questions to the presenters in the chat section, because we won't necessarily see that. Don't worry if you do. I've got some colleagues there that will advise you if you do pop anything in the chat section that needs to be in the Q&A section, okay? But yeah, get those questions in. We like to get you all involved and get you asking those questions that you have ticking away there. Okay, I think that's about it. Just last thing before we get started. So the moment, BPCA, we have our own charity that we like to support, and at the moment it's prostate cancer. We have a target of achieving £3,000. At the moment we are at £2,372, so we're 79% of the way there. I didn't do that maths just then. Lauren told me earlier. I should have really kept it as that. I've been quite impressed, but yes, 79% of the way there. So you'll be directed to that donating page after the forum today. It'd be great, even just a few pounds, anything you can afford, just to donate to that. It's a brilliant cause, prostate cancer, and it'd be great if we can get to that target as well. Okay, fantastic. We've just put the link as well up in the chat section, so if anybody wanted to go and visit that during the break today a bit earlier, then please do so. But don't leave us before that. We want you here. Because coming up, we've got Davy Brown from Rat Detection, who's going to be talking to us about drainage investigation techniques. So enough of hearing from me, really. I think it'd be great to get Davy popped up and, tell us about drain investigation techniques, Davy.
I'm sure it's not too much excitement for a morning, Natalie.
Yeah.
Talking about drains and sewers. Right, let's see if we can get ourselves linked up.
Great, I'll just stay here just to support you if you need it. I'll let you know when it pops up.
That should be on now.
Yep, fabulous.
Right. Smashing. Right, okie dokie, got my laser ready. Smashing. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us so early to talk about sewers. I hope you've all had breakfast. So I'm Davy Brown. I run a specialist training company called Rat Detection. We work solely in the pest control industry. In the last 15, 20 years, we've worked with maybe 300 pest control companies, many, many environmental health departments. And we do roughly about 1,000, maybe 1,100 surveys a year, purely to find how rats are leaving drainage systems and entering properties. Excuse me. So I've been a drainage engineer for 37 years. I heavily involved with the National Association of Drainage Contractors. I wrote and delivered their drain lining foundation course several years ago. That's a method we use for coating the inside of drains with fiberglass. I sit on the training committee at the NADC, and I wrote and currently deliver the Drain and Sewer Pest Awareness course for kill germ chemicals. Okay, that's all the adverts over with. We also have a page on Facebook called the Rat Detectives. You're all more than welcome to join. There's about 1,000 pest controllers on there. We cover a lot of the subjects we talk about today. We get a lot of questions on there. We share a lot of videos. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to join. So we've done a few of these forums now. And when the Q&As come up, we always get asked about smoke testing. So we're going to look at smoke testing today, how it's used in drainage investigation, the success rate and the failure rate, and why it's becoming a little outdated, but we'll show you the techniques we use for smoke testing drains. We'll look at dye testing and flush testing, a very basic drainage investigation technique, but still has some use. We'll look at Sonar drain tracing. This is a method we use to pinpoint concealed chambers, drainage defects below ground. This tells us exactly where they are when we get the shovels out of the van. And we'll show pest controllers the signs to look for above ground that tell you that a drain survey is needed. You can go forensic. There are signs there that tell you something's changed, and the rodent issue is probably down to a drainage defect. So we've got to look at the health and safety side of stuff. We're messing in drains, nasty places, diseases. So you must consider PPE, risk assess. Confined space entry is a big issue in our world. You do not climb into deep chambers without the correct equipment. And public interface, you are lifting manhole covers, you're leaving manhole covers open where the public are. So you have to assess the situation and make the working area safe. So we've encouraged pest controllers now for many years to lift and inspect, look at inspection chambers, but you have to do it safely. Please use cones, signage and barrier systems. And again, do not lift the cover on someone's driveway and then walk off to your van for your torch. You've got to make the working area safe. Okay, then we'll look at smoke testing first. So this is an Eclipse smoke machine. Every local authority in the UK would have had one of these at one time or the other. What we used to do, we would soak rags in oil and diesel and then fill the client's house with acrid smoke. We're not allowed to do that anymore, and quite rightly so. And nor are we allowed to have an open flame next to an open manhole. So health and safety has finally caught up with the world of drainage. We tend to use these days smoke pallets. There are many on the market, and what you would do with these, you would set them alight and then put them into the drain, and then you would seal the drain off with a drain test bung. A couple of issues here. Do not set a smoke pallet on fire and put it inside a plastic drain, because you will just burn a hole through the bottom of the pipe. So you have to sit it on something tin or a coal chisel, something flat, to absorb the heat. If Mrs. Smith flushes the toilet, just after you put the bung in to contain the smoke in the system, it will put the smoke bomb out. So you need flow control while you're doing the test. Pallet testing, smoke testing this way is a bit hit and miss. I've smoke tested the same system twice using this method and got two different results. And the reason for that we'll show you in a second. So we tend to use these days a modern smoke machine. Little video now just to show you the kind of kit we use. Quite powerful, but a lot of smoke into the system. As you can see there. These are exactly the same machines they use in stage productions, at nightclubs, discotheques and the like, but for some reason when they market them as drain testing equipment, the price doubles. So on the end of the hose for the smoke machine, we have a canvas bag, and we put the canvas bag into the system and inflate it, and we blow smoke through the middle. This is to keep the smoke confined to the drainage system. Now, the reason smoke tests fail is there was a natural airflow through a drainage system. And you have to take this into account when you're undergoing a test. So as an example, on the right there, we have a sewer. Let's say that's 300 mil, 12-inch sewer. If that is flowing half bore, that will create a natural airflow. So if we put smoke into this chamber on the left, the smoke will be drawn to the sewer. It will miss the defective pipe we have there. The smoke will not have opportunity to work its way up because of the natural airflow through the sewer. So you'll note there we have an internal soil vent pipe. This is an external soil vent pipe. These would normally be on the side of the property, the external ones obviously, and that allows foul air from the sewer network to vent above the property. So on the drainage system, that will create a natural airflow. So if we were to pressurize smoke in from this chamber on the right, the smoke would be drawn up the vent. Again, missing the defect. So in effect, we are getting a false reading. So what we have to do is isolate the section of drainage system we are trying to carry a smoke test on. Not always easy. So what we would do here is we would cap off the outlet on the manhole to the left. We would pressurize smoke into the system in the manhole on the right. And when smoke starts to appear from the top of the vent pipe, we would bag it off or cap it off. So the smoke is now confined to the system, and it would eventually find its way through the defect. So again, another little video here showing you that very process. So in the upstream inspection chamber, you'll see we have the machine set up, and we have a 6-inch 150mm airbag blocking the outlet. You just see water building up there behind it. We then have a walk through to the downstream inspection chamber. So straight away you can see it's critical you have the correct access into the drainage system, or you just cannot isolate the system at all. So there we have the downstream section bagged off, and then we pressurise smoke into the system. When the smoke starts to go out the top of the vent pipe, we safely cap off or bag off the top of the vent pipe. So pressurised smoke is far better than just using a smoke pellet. You've got far more control over how much you put into the system. You get varied results with modern properties, and this is because modern properties are so well sealed. We tend to box pipework in now, laminate floors, everything's so well sealed. Smoke testing is a very, very early form of investigation, and all the drains used to be outside, so it was quite easy to get a result. Now we're modern living, not so good. When drains have been built around with extensions. So we do a few smoke tests, but not many, maybe half a dozen a year. This is an example again of an internal sort of vent pipe. You can see how well sealed it is. So smoke could leave the system and go into the boxed area, and you still don't get to see it. We often use smoke tests for vertical pipework we just can't physically get to with the camera. So it has its place. It's a shame it's odorless. The smoke off these machines, you can't smell it, because quite often with the old methods, you could smell the smoke even if you couldn't see it. So you were getting some connectivity from the test. So as I say, smoke testing, we'll do half a dozen a year. We carry the kit, but a decent drain survey inspection is usually enough to find the fault. So now we'll look at flush and dye testing. Again, a very basic form of investigation. You literally pour water down point A, and if it comes out at point B, you know you've got some connectivity. What it doesn't tell you is how much water you are losing between the 2 points. When we sell houses, buy houses, we'll have a survey done, and your surveyor will literally flush a toilet in the house. And if water comes through to a downstream manhole, he ticks a box. We don't know how much water is going into the ground near the foundations. We don't know if the pipe's dipped. We don't know if the pipe's got backfall. So again, it has its place, but we don't use it a lot. So the image in the middle is a powder form of drain dye. Comes in many colours: blue, red, green, yellow. Green is by far the more superior, easy to see. You can also buy it in pallet forms. So for pest control, where we may use it in a scenario like this, for whatever reason, we may not be able to get our drain camera to this section. We've got quite a deep chamber. We've got a couple of sharp 90-degree bends. So if you had a camera that just could not negotiate this pipework, and if you were getting activity on this side of the house, you may undertake a flush and dye test. So again, another little video. We've got some cracking in the hard standing around this clay gully. So the pathway is settled. We're pumping water in. We've got some green dye in. And if we look in the chamber, you'll see there's more water and dye coming through the structure of the chamber than through the pipework. We've got a little flow through the pipe, not much at all. So you could use that as, again, connectivity for the client. You can tell them you can't get your camera as far as you want to go. We've got settlement to the hard standing, and we've got a lot of water and dye going missing between the pipe and the chamber. It's going into the ground and coming into the structure of the chamber. So you've shown enough there to justify that an excavation in this area is required. And you may well find that the defect allowing the water loss is also allowing rats to enter the property. But another tool we use on a regular basis is the Sonar drain tracer. So this is often built into modern cameras, or you can buy it as a separate unit. And how this works, you would push the tracer into the drainage system, either up to a defect or a buried chamber. The sonar sends a signal up. It sends it up in an arch. So if you use your receiver and narrow the signal right down, you know you are directly above the tracer. Very, very handy tool if you are digging an 8-foot hole by hand. You want to know there's something at the bottom when you get there. We use these for finding buried chambers, buried inspection covers. If you have a defective drain here, we would send the sonar along with the camera up to the defect, which in turn would send a signal up to ground level, and we know exactly where we are excavating in the basement. So for many years, we've been encouraging pest controllers to lift manhole covers if they can do so safely. The best and cheapest tool you guys have are your eyes. And there's usually a lot of signs out there to tell you how rats are leaving the drainage system and entering a property without using the camera, the drain inspection camera. So as you can see, very common. Builders, great British workmanship, they will knock a hole through the side of a chamber, stick a pipe through and put the cover down. And that is enough for a rat to leave the chamber and follow the pipework into the property. Here we have a very poorly constructed inspection chamber, very weak mix of mortar, and the rats have just gnawed their way out within half a metre of the property foundation. If you lift the manhole cover and see signs of heavy debris, silt, stone, that is a good sign that rats are burrowing out of this drain. This will be redundant or broken somewhere, and there's all the signs you need. Again, builders not to hole through the side of a brick chamber and not fill in around it with brickwork. Rats will follow the pipe out. And here we have quite a deep chamber that's collapsing due to a burst water main. And again, that is an opportunity for rodents to leave the sewer network. So the above ground signs you guys can look for. We're back to soil vent pipes. So if you are on site and you see this sort of shenanigans going on, that does not comply with any building control regulations I'm aware of. That is a bodge. Somebody has done this to stop a pipe leaking or venting at ground level. And if you've got rat activity in this property, that is a clear sign there's something wrong with the below ground drainage. This is a weak point on the drainage system where the soil vent pipe meets the drainage. So your soil vent pipe will typically be cast iron or plastic. It then joins the below ground clay. On all the systems, the cast iron will sit inside a clay collar, and that will be sealed with mortar. When the cast iron corrodes or it's changed to plastic, this often gets broken, and you get this scenario. So quite often, this is broken or the bend has settled due to water loss. The system leaks, so constant water hitting it over many years, that will dislodge. So this whole scenario here is a weak point on any drainage system within 200 or 300 mil of foundation. If you see this sort of settlement to a hard standing, particularly next to clay drains, there's two things going on. I mean, the drain could be leaking, and that's what's caused this, or the movement of the concrete will have damaged the drain. So again, if you're getting activity in this property and you see this, you are more than justified in recommending a drain survey inspection to the client. Utility works are a big one. If you see scars in tarmac or concrete where somebody has been digging, excavating next to drainage, again, alarm bells should be ringing. Here, they've excavated a pit for a pipe moulding exercise. I'll show you what that involves in a second. right at the side of the drainage system. New stop tap's been installed at the side of the drainage system. So pipe molding is used by the water companies, the gas companies, and they will typically excavate in the footpath or a road. They will excavate at the side of the house. They will then use a metre-long mould. This is a pneumatic mould, and it inches through the ground, dragging a new pipe behind it, but it will pass through whatever's in its way, leading to this kind of damage. So we've got a gas pipe there, 2 water mains, and you can see it just pass straight through the clay drainage, leaving large holes. And that's enough for a rat to leave the system. You will not find these kind of defects without a drain survey camera. So if you can lift manholes, you can certainly lift the grid tops on drainage gullies. Drainage gullies are typically at the side of the house. These will take rainwater, sink waste, bath sink waste, shower waste. If you can pop the cover off, always worth taking a look. If we look at how we build houses, we will typically dig a trench for the foundation. We will put the block and brickwork in. We then loosely backfill around the foundations. On the inside of the property, they will blind some sand, like so, and then we put our thermal block, our insulation in. Then the floor goes on top of that. Externally, on all this loose infill, we will put the drainage system. If you're lucky, you might get some pipe bedding, but this is a concern. This is where your gully or even your rest bend from your solvent pipe is sat. So if we get some differential settlement, the gully will drop. But at ground level, everything looks okay because the hopper top on the gully is held in place by flags, tarmac, concrete. So at ground level, everything looks fine. But below ground, we have this going on. That is enough for a rat to leave a drainage system. So a nice, simple solution is to go around with your torch and your best screwdrivers and just pop these covers off. You will often find a problem. So as I say, we've done a few of these presentations now, and it's no secret the biggest cause of rats in properties is connected to poor workmanship and extensions. So we'll just show you this typical scenario. We have a detached house here with a very simple drainage system. On the back of the house, we have a kitchen gully and we have a soil vent pipe. And then we build the extension. The kitchen gully has now been moved and we've made a new connection into this drain here and then across the back of the house. What happened to that branch line? How was that capped off? Cement bag, half a brick if you're lucky. So this is typically how rats get out of drainage systems under extensions. So using a couple of techniques we've used today, we could do a smoke test. The chances are the smoke wouldn't find this defect. We will certainly use a drain camera to identify this. A good engineer will get his camera in there. If not, park your camera there, do some flush testing. If you flush test everything in that house and nothing comes through that junction, you are nearly there. You've nearly identified the cause of the infestation. Above ground signs again, we've got an extension here, and if you look closely, you can see the old brackets. These are the brackets that held the soil vent pipe in place. So again, the signs are there that somebody has altered the drainage system. Another extension here, as you can see, and you can just make out a line in the render where it's been painted and there's been a pipe in the way. You'll also see the cornice there has been cut out to take a rainwater downspout. So the signs are there. You just need to lift your head up and look. I'm afraid this is where a lot of drainage companies fall short. Another trick, if you can do so without getting arrested, is to look at neighbouring properties. And you'll often see how the original drainage system was set out. So there we have the soil vent pipe next door. if we swing back to our property, you can see that the soil vent pipe has actually been diverted. That's where the soil vent pipe would have been. It's now been diverted to the back corner of the property. And sure enough, when we surveyed this system, downstream of this manhole here, we found an old branch line from the original soil vent pipe. So we've got a few techniques there, but as I say, the vast majority of the time, a decent surveyor with the right equipment will find the defects that allow rats into the property just by using a drain camera. A smoke test is there to be used alongside of that. We don't do so much of that these days. The sonar equipment is there to help to locate defects so that you can you know how to repair the drain once you've found the defect itself. So cameras are the way forward. It's using the right cameras and the right techniques, and that's probably another 45-minute presentation on another day. So I think that's me about done. So once again, please do join rat detectives if you like some more of this information. We talk freely on there about different techniques, and I do present a full day course for kilogerm with CPD points available should you wish. I think that's me done, Natalie.
Fantastic, Davy. Thank you. That was amazing timing as well. You covered all the really important bits. I was staring at the screen like this, and you'd finished, and I thought, oh, blimey, I need to do something. So no, that was great. Thank you so much. We've got a couple of questions coming in, so let me get them up for you. So Terry here asked, how effective do you think drain rat blockers are? Terry's fitted quite a few. However, he's always advised people that it's like putting a plaster over a cut, and that there is usually a deeper problem.
Yeah. So they have the place. You know, we install a few. As a drainage engineer, I'm very wary of putting anything in the drainage system that affects the flow. So we will only install them after we've done a drain survey, so we are aware of the flow rate on that system and the valve is going to work. But rats will get past them, without a doubt. 10, 15 years ago, we never saw valves on site. Every day of the week now, we are taking valves out to get our cameras in, which tells its own story. If the valves worked, we wouldn't be there. So they have a use. They're good for stopping rats climbing vertically, chewing through pan connectors, that kind of stuff. As a drainage engineer, I would always advise you find the defect that allows rats to leave the system and fix it, because that's usually connected to water loss into the foundations. And while the valves may stop rats, they will not stop internal venting, sewer gas getting into the property, or drain flies. So they have the place. They're a tool for pest controllers to use, definitely.
A tool amongst many.
Yeah.
Great. Chris here asks whether you can answer this or not. What's the best camera to buy? I mean, do you have any recommendations?
Again, there's probably an hour's presentation on cameras. There's so many different types of camera heads, the spring behind the camera head, the cable. There isn't one camera that will do everything you need. So my advice to pest controllers is don't buy the suitcase cameras off the internet for £600-700. They won't last 5 minutes. Buy a reconditioned drainage camera. £3,500, you'll get a decent recon. But it is built, it's fit for purpose. It's built to do the job. Again, going back to the rat detectives page, this is a question we get asked a lot. So there's a lot of feedback on there from different guys about the best cameras. But there's probably 3 or 4 mates in the UK that I would use personally. Minicam Solo Pro, maybe Point. But as I say, all my guys carry 2 cameras because there isn't one system that does everything you need.
Yeah, absolutely. There's someone, David Brown here, asks, would the rats still live in the drain and just forage in the house, or completely leave the drain for good?
So we find rats. So if you lived in a sewer and you could get out, you probably would. So we find, and this is why some guys struggle getting bait take, and rats won't go to traps. There's an alternative food source. All the food and water a rat could ever want is in the sewer network. I'm sorry if you're eating your breakfast, but that is true. So we tend to find when people hear rats in the house, they are getting nesting material, wall insulation, loft insulation. We often find when we excavate and repair, we find the nest at the side of the drainage defect in the subsoil. So it's not as though they're nesting in the property, they tend to be nesting below ground itself and nipping into the house when they need nesting material, eating and feeding, eating and drinking in the sewer network.
What would you say the percentages of problems with rats in attics or roofs or cavities that are actually caused by drainage faults?
Well, the figures seem to be social media by the organisation, 80-90%.
Yeah.
When we run when we do the training, it's one of the questions they ask, and most pest controllers seem to think that's a fairly accurate estimate.
I think I'd agree. Yeah, I think a lot.
Yeah.
That root cause is really important, isn't it? Paul here asks, are most of the problems you encounter on older properties or new builds?
No, it's equal. I say extensions is a big one, so obviously older properties tend to be extended, but we have as many problems on new build, mainly because of the way we build houses and the materials. Flexible pan connectors, plastics, we are inviting rats in, basically. So we estimate we could probably stop 30% of future infestations just by changing the way we build houses and the materials. But obviously, the major construction companies aren't going to listen to me, so we will remain busy.
Yeah. Great. Terry's got another question here. So why is it utility companies always come back and say there's no issues when they've done a survey? Do you find private companies carry out a more thorough survey?
No, it's very simple. The water companies and their contractors can only look at their apparatus. They can only look at shared drainage systems or private drainage systems beyond the boundary. They cannot look at private drains. It's a monopolies commission thing. The water companies look after the sewers. Private contractors are supposed to survey private drains. So it's often misinformation. They will often say the drains are sound when they mean their drain is sound, not the private drain. So it's getting the right information.
And you have to apply for permission to survey, non-private sewers.
Yeah. So if you are working, you have to have permission to work on a shared sewer system, and you have to prove to the water companies you are a competent contractor. And there are hefty fines if you are caught working on the systems, because it's a rateable service. You shouldn't really be charging somebody to look at something they pay rates for. So drainage law is a big issue. You've got to know your stuff.
Not just about having a good camera, it's about having a good.
Any field can push a camera around, as I prove on a daily basis.
Well, I don't know. I think people get them stuck sometimes.
Well, yeah, we've had some of that. Yeah.
Great. I've got one more question here. Then, I think you've probably covered this in the presentation, but just maybe to reiterate it, how do rats enter into a property through a manhole? Is it that it means a pipe is broken or make a hole in the pipe? I know you covered it, but just to...
Well, yeah, there has to be a defect with the pipe in the first instance. If it's clay, they will chew out a plastic pipe. So this is the question we get asked most by clients. So I get that they get out of my drains. How do they get into my property? So if they're leaving a drain under a property, that's easy. They'll just tunnel about under a property until they find the cavity. And there's usually a hole in the cavity. There's usually a hole in the foundation where there's a brick missing, or your gas or your water or your electric pass through. So they will follow service pipes through the foundations, and then they've got access to the cavity. And this is why they usually manifest in the loft, in the attic, because they follow the cavity straight up. So I've known rats to leave a defect 4 or 5 meters from my house and follow the pipework back and get in certain ground types, sand, chalk. But the defect tends to be within a metre of the foundations or beneath the property itself. Usually on a blind junction. This is why you need techniques to get the cameras around sharp bends and blind junctions. Just surveying in straight lines is not sufficient. And this is going back to the question before, why so many surveys fail. Guys are not making the effort to get to those areas that need surveying.
Great. Fabulous. So I think that brings us to the end. We haven't got any more questions there. You've answered them all really thoroughly. If we do have any more pop up, or if there's a chat section, you see a question.
I'll go in the chat section and see what comes up.
Yeah, see if there's any bits in there. But again, thank you, Davy. That was great, and lovely to see you.
I'll see you, Natalie. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Davy. Great, yeah, everyone. Thank you for those questions. They're really good. And drain surveying is really important when it comes to rats in properties. The root cause can be it can be that root cause a lot of the time. So yeah, having some good knowledge on it, getting in touch with people who can do that survey, and of course Davy if he's available.